We're going to move on to topic number 2, the second game, because Jokic is his name. Give that man his respect, okay? Like how we acknowledge Roman Reigns in the WWE, I'm going to acknowledge our Joker because I ain't joking. This dude is that dude. I'm tired of the disrespect. Lil, what you're talking about? The guy won 3 MVPs, right? You're talking disrespect? No, that's not disrespect. I'm going to dive into why I feel like this man is being disrespected in a minute. But Zach, we're going to get to this question right now, okay? Did the Timberwolves blow their chance to put out Jokic and the Nuggets? The mic is yours.
So I understand why a lot of people would be thinking this, right? It wasn't that long ago that the Timberwolves went into Denver for the first 2 games of this series, and they won. They went back home with a 2-0 series lead, and I still maintain that Game 2 performance by Minnesota was one of the most impressive performances I've ever seen from a team in a single playoff game, especially on the defensive end, holding the defending champion Nuggets to only 80 points, and they really had them flustered from start to finish. And the reason why that result was so surprising to me was because I expected after Denver dropped game 1 at home, I was expecting to see that championship DNA from them. And it just wasn't there. They folded. And I honestly don't think that Minnesota blew their chance to put out the Nuggets. I just think the Nuggets said, you know what? Enough is enough. We're the defending champions. We have the best player in the world, and you're not winning this series, Minnesota. And I think that's exactly what they did for the 2 games in Minneapolis. And Nikola Jokic has just taken over this series by himself. Last night was an all-time Jokic game, dropping 40 points, 13 assists, 7 rebounds, an all-time third quarter. Minnesota even was fighting in the game. They took the lead earlier in the third quarter, and they were playing without Mike Conley, their point guard, which I think was a tough loss. But this is kind of what I was wanting to see from Denver early on in this series, in particular game number 2. But Jokic is the best player in the world right now. He's the MVP for a reason. He's showed that. I think the concerning thing for Minnesota, too, is Jamal Murray still hasn't been particularly great. He had that one huge shot from basically half court in game number 4, but you still think that he could play better. And one last point I'll make on Denver, man. I think the unsung hero of this team is Aaron Gordon. I think adding him has been a huge, huge reason why this team has been so successful over the course of the last 2 years. And I give him a lot of credit because, this guy's a former top 5 pick that when he got drafted to Orlando, they asked him to be the best player, the star of the team. And that role just wasn't really made for him. And that's okay because Aaron Gordon's just one of those guys that even though he might not be the best player on the championship team, when he's your 3rd or 4th option, that's a scary, scary sight for your opponent. And that's a big reason why Denver has been so successful over the course of the last few years. He's been a big-time impact. And I think their bench, too, guys like Christian Braun, guys like Justin Holiday, who didn't really play that big of a role in the Lakers series at all. I think he's been crucial for Denver in these games. Reggie Jackson as well. And Michael Malone, the way he was able to get through to his team after they lost game 2, the first 2 games at home in such embarrassing fashion, there's a reason why he's one of the best coaches in the league. So I think Denver, over the course of the last 3 games, has made us realize that, okay, they're the defending champs for a reason. I think these 3 games also have been their most impressive moment of this year-plus playoff run. I think these 3 games have been much more impressive than anything they did last year. And again, they're the defending champs for a reason, and now they have this series in full control. So I honestly don't think the Timberwolves blew their opportunity. They're a young team. They were probably just like the Pacers, right? Reading the newspaper headlines, feeling good about themselves, but they're playing the defending champs, so I think took this series from them.
Yeah, the series is over. The reason why I bring that up is because, first of all, it's the adjustments that the Nuggets made. Being able to target Rudy Gobert out on the perimeter, and you do got to give Rudy Gobert some type of credit, right? I understand we're going to see the highlights of him getting cooked, last night. But, his ability to, he has his strengths and his weaknesses, and even though him being switched out as a, big on the perimeter, being switched out as a switch out big on the perimeter, even though it's not his strength, you still got to give him credit for the reason why the Timberwolves are here, how they got past round 1. He was able to stifle the pick and roll of the Phoenix Suns and being switched on to the best player and guarding them one-on-one at times. And I'm stopping them. Look, I thought Phoenix was, going to play that small ball lineup and run him off the court. Didn't happen. He was able to stay on the court. He was able to make an impact. Now, Jokic, when you look at Jokic, he's just a different animal, and they're making a certified effort of attacking Rudy Gobert and attacking this defense in its entirety in different ways. Jokic scored 40 something points last night, and literally before this game, Jokic never won when he scored that many points. The Nuggets never won. And so what the Timberwolves wanted to do, they 1-4 now after last night. What the Timberwolves wanted to do was force him to be a scorer. And it worked because he scored. But they was not expecting the 13 assists. And I think they try to throw everything at Jokic. They tried to have Rudy Gobert one-on-one with him. Did not work. He was just bullying Rudy Gobert. Then they tried to cat and having Rudy Gobert as a roamer. And when they did that, he was able to make the reeling pass to his open teammate. So you couldn't stop him there. And then you tried Nas Reed and Kyle Anderson. You try to double him, and that's not going to work. So there's no way really you could really guard and stop Jokic. He happened to had 2 bad games in the first 2 games, but he adjusted. He found a way. He downloaded data to what the Timberwolves were doing, how they were stopping him, and that's what the greats do. When you're being stifled and you have a 7-game series, you download data and you figure out how you're going to make the individual adjustments, and the team makes the team adjustments. And that's exactly what the Nuggets have been able to do. And you do have to give credit too, because I understand we're going to talk about Jokic here a lot, because when you put up that type of monster performance, fresh off of winning your 3rd MVP, that's going to be the topic of conversation, and it should be. But when you look at the Nuggets depth and the spark that these guys, not named Jokic and Jamal Murray, was able to chip in, you're talking about the last game. I believe they had about 27 points, the bench alone, going 6 for 9 shooting, from deep in game 4. And last night, KCP, he chipped in 16 points. Christian Brown was able to chip in 10 points and 5 rebounds. And his energy was able to find the backdoor cuts and get open layups. And he played with a lot of energy. So right now, what you see is that the Nuggets depth are chipping in more. And that's exactly what they lacked and what they needed to step up to really come back in the series. And it's a big reason why they are on the verge of going to the Western Conference Finals, which I think ultimately will happen in this next game. I think it's over. I think when you play a player like Jokic and you did everything possible to stop that man, and he has a performance like last night, and you can't stop him, like that got to be demoralizing. I think that confidence is going to continue. I think they win. I think it's over.
Another point I'll make on this, Lil, and I got to say, part of the reason why I was so disappointed with Denver after game 2, and part of the reason why going into game 3 in Minnesota, I was a little skeptical of Denver ultimately doing this, was I was just so disappointed in Jamal Murray and really the entire team and the way things unraveled. They really responded to adversity in such a poor way in game 2. And that is what really has made this turnaround more impressive, that they learned from that adversity and have really turned the series around. But I got to tell you, Will, if I'm a Timberwolves fan, and I don't know if you've put yourself in their shoes yet thinking about this, but like, do you think Jamal Murray should have gotten suspended for game 3 after he threw the towel and the heating pack on the floor? Because I think that sets a really poor example for the league. Like, you can't just have players throwing stuff on the court and throwing stuff at referees when calls don't go their way. And I just wonder, like, if Denver would have been able to win one of those first 2 games, would Murray have gotten suspended for game 3? Because I was convinced that after he did that, he was going to miss at least one of these 2 games. And maybe if that happens, this series goes in a totally different direction. So I'm not trying to diminish Denver of any credit. They're the defending champs for a reason. Jokic is the best player in the world for a reason. But I was just thinking about that last night. Man, like, what if Jamal Murray was suspended for game 3? Because I thought he would have been, honestly.
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up, because you did open up Pandora's box in a conversation that really is probably going to strike a nerve, especially if you're a Nuggets fan, right? Because I do believe that Jamal Murray should have been suspended, right? But have been accustomed to Adam Silver not really pulling the trigger when it comes to his plays, which is a big reason why the NBA, call spade a spade, sucks. especially in the playoff, not in the playoff, excuse me, in the regular season, because he allowed the players to get away with it so much, and he doesn't. He's not firm. He's not stern. Literally not stern. And that's why players they do what they want and they get away with murder. Jamal Murray should have been suspended in that game. And if you're the Timberwolves, you have to be feeling the type of way. You should be out there protesting because if he was not playing in that game, I think it happened in game 3. So if he wasn't playing in that game 4,
No, the other it happened in game 2.
it
So
happened in game 2, right,
going
right,
into
right.
game
So
3.
if he didn't play in that game 3, then you had to assume that the Timberwolves would have been a favorite to win game 3 and go up 3-0, and we all know the history behind that. So yes, I do believe that Jamal Murray should have been suspended. I do think the Timberwolves fans should be feeling robbed in some capacity, but it has happened. Even with the Knicks and Joel Embiid, when Joel Embiid, I think he pulled Mitchell Robinson's knee or something like that, try to pull him down. He should have got kicked out of that game, and that would have impacted that game because in the non-Joel Embiid minutes, we know the result of that. We was able to go on runs. That could have affected us, but it didn't because we bounced back. So there is a level of taking ownership as well because we went through all that and we still won, that series. But yeah, you do look at that and you do wonder why he wasn't suspended, but I'm not surprised based on Adam Silver's track record.
Yeah, and also, man, I think it's important to say too, like Minnesota's coach tore his Achilles a couple days before this series started. That was such a freak incident. What happened toward the end of that Sun series, and I just feel terrible because there have been a lot of things that don't really have to do with basketball directly. I think that have impacted Minnesota in this series, and it's pretty demoralizing. But let me say this, Lil. I actually think we're getting a game 7. I think Minnesota is going to come out firing and win game 6. I know they've lost the last 3 games, and that's been super unfortunate for them. But the way this team played against Phoenix, the way this team played in the first 2 games of this series, I think they have one more moment in them. I think they're going to show fight at home in game 6. I don't think they're going to lose all 3 home games in this series against Denver. And I think we're in for a game 7 because this series has had so many twists and turns. The way Minnesota came out in the first 2 games, the way Denver's responded, we're going to hit on it with this next question coming up. Like, are these the 2 best teams in the league right now? Is this just an NBA Finals preview?
Yeah.
I think we have one more Timberwolves moment, and I think we're going to get a game 7.
I mean, I'm going to respond to that in a minute. I do want to respond to my guy, Kenny, here, because I agree with him. I think Naz Reid individually, his individual one-on-one defense could be better than what Cat and Rudy Gobert's individual defense against Jokic could be, because obviously we saw Rudy Gobert get cooked last night one-on-one, and he's really just a rim protecting guy. He just patrols the paint, really. Yes, you could switch him out on a guard and try to stifle the guard, but at the same time, that's not really his strength. Cat is undisciplined. Like, if you put Cat on Jokic, he's going to get in foul trouble. He's going to get thrown out the game. Now you miss his scoring. So I do think Naz Reid will probably be the guy that you want defending Jokic to start the game. I do agree with Kenny there. As far as going back to Jokic and just paying homage right now, because I referenced it when I brought us in with this topic, is although he got his 3rd MVP and around the league circles, he's getting his jurisdiction due of being the best player in the world right now, I still don't think that his achievements and his individual greatness, forget the achievements, his individual greatness is emphasized enough. The reason why I bring that up, bear with me, last year after game 1 of the Western Conference Finals, everybody was talking about how they made a big fuss about how, or a big emphasis on the Lakers found something, putting Rui Hachimura on Jokic. They're going to stop Jokic that way. They're going to tame Jokic that way, and they're going to come back and win this series because they found something. They got swept. And then when we predicted the Lakers and the Nuggets, right, fast forward to a couple months ago when the playoffs started, I believe 2 people on the show predicted the Lakers to win. You and Zay. And I do believe, Kenny, you could correct me if I'm wrong. Okay? Leave a comment. I do believe you as well pick the Lakers to win that series. That, to me, when you got the best player in the world, like, we got to go with the best player in the world. And then we get this narrative, and look, I'm a fan of this dude. Like, I really do think he's going to be poised to be the next face of the NBA. But the narrative coming into this series was, oh, Anthony Edwards, face of the league, and he's the Michael Jordan of this era, comparing him to Michael Jordan. And if anything, the Michael Jordan on the floor It's not Anthony Edwards right now. It's Nikola Jokic. He's the reason why Woody Gobert, well, not the reason why, because, I don't think Woody Gobert is like that. He's a good player, but he's not like that. But he's one of the reasons why Woody Gobert is not going to win a championship this year. He's the reason why, arguably, we're going to talk about this next, why Boston, Tatum, and Brown may not win a championship. He's the reason why LeBron James hasn't won another championship. He's the reason why, Anthony Davis hasn't won another championship, okay? He's the reason why Kevin Durant and Devin Booker didn't win a championship, okay? That's Michael Jordan-esque to me, because Michael Jordan was the reason why Charles Barkley ain't win a championship. Michael Jordan was the reason why so many Hall of Famers didn't win a championship. That's Nikola Jokic. So with all this Anthony Edwards hype, because a lot of people picked the Timberwolves to win the series, even though Jokic is getting his jurisdiction due around league circles, getting that third MVP to put him in high trajectory here, I still don't think he gets enough credit because he is the best player in the world. And quite frankly, this man can't be stopped.
So, Will, it's funny, I'm going to pick the Nuggets to win in 7. I still think they find a way. I learned my lesson. I picked the Nuggets going into this series, but I just wanted to say, as the guy who makes the graphics, I believe you did pick the Timberwolves. So I just want to make that clear. I learned my lesson.
Let me correct that real quickly here. Initially, I had the Nuggets winning on this show. So if you watch the tape, it's on YouTube, Real Little TV. I had the Nuggets winning in 7. But what happened was you cooked that graphic after game 1 because we still had the other games to finish out. So after game 1, I saw game 1, I jumped ship, and I went with the Timberwolves in 7. But if you watch the tape that's out there on YouTube TV, I did pick the Nuggets in 7 games. It was just me overreacting to game 1 while I jumped ship.
And that happens. And I said this series was going to be a sweep after game 2. Assuming I thought Murray was going to get suspended, but, lessons are learned. Like we all...
Yeah, I mean, when they was up 2-0, we all buried them. It was like, yeah, but they showed us, new life, and that's why they're here.
No doubt.
Please like and subscribe for all the up-to-date content. We're slinging shows left and right, slinging content left and right. Please don't miss anything. If you do, like, subscribe, leave a comment, leave a question, something you may want to answer, something you may have. All ideas are great ideas. Nothing's a dumb question.